to the 34th episode of PauseCast. It's Thursday, the 23rd of March, 2017. I am Jessica Alouette, and I use she, her pronouns.
And I'm Mark Hanna, I use he, him. Welcome.
34.
You know, every time you say the episode number, my brain immediately turns into, it does the prime factorization. It's weird. I don't know why I do this. But I was like, 2 and 17. Oh, wow, there's only two. But
that's like a weirdly specific thing, and
yeah.
I'm also kind of amazed that you can just do it that fast as well.
It might get harder once we get into higher numbers.
Oh, God.
It's easy with ones that just have 2. Like, we've got this one with 2 and 17, and, you know, last week it was 3 and 11.
Can you believe we're like 2/3 of the way to a full year of doing the show?
Because it'll be episode 52, right?
Well, it'll technically
Ish.
be a little earlier than that, but like by the time we hit episode 52, like yeah, that's going to be a year of this show.
Yeah.
That's a little nuts to me. Oh. How have you been though? What have you been playing this week?
Oh, that question.
It's always brutal for you, isn't it?
I've played about 3 hours of Horizon since last week. I've been busy with another project on most of my evenings. So I really enjoyed that, like, 3 or 4 hours of Horizons I played on Sunday. I went through, pretty much cleared out all the side quests in the area, and not, like, in the mindset of, I'm going to clear out all the side quests in this area. It's more, I discovered and did the side quests in that area while I was playing. And that was really cool.
Right, okay.
And also sort of clears the way now for me to continue with the main quest. But I haven't played that much of anything since we last did an episode. That's the only thing I've touched. What about you? I know you've been playing more than me.
I've been playing like a bunch this week. I'm happy to say that I finished Night in the Woods.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But I finished Night in the Woods. It's very good. I've started playing Nier Automata, which is quite good. I'm very much enjoying my time with that thus far.
Mm-hmm.
What else has been kind of on my list? It's mostly been kind of Nier and it's been Nier and Night in the Woods, and I think that's a pretty good combo.
Nice. Yeah, what you've been telling me about Nier sounds really cool. Although I haven't actually looked up any footage of it yet. I should see what the aesthetic's like. How do you spell it again? Because it's a weird spelling, right?
Yeah, N-I-E-R.
N-I-E-R.
I'm going to cut this, by the way.
Oh, no, I was thinking the spelling might be a useful thing to
Oh, yeah, that's
That's
fair.
why I'm asking. But yeah, so you've described it to me as kind of like a Bayonetta game, but I haven't really played Bayonetta, so it's kind of like a Devil May Cry sort of third-person fighting style-y kind of game.
Yeah, like very, very stylish, high-pace action. Is a very it's a very like kind of awkward way of describing Platinum's games. They're basically intended to be they're games which are largely flashy, fast-paced, and generally have pretty deep combat and stuff too. Mm-hmm. So previous games by Platinum include Bayonetta, Metal Gear Rising, which was the one starring Raiden, for those who are interested in the Metal Gear lore. I want to briefly sidebar to Metal Gear Rising here for a second.
Okay, yeah.
One of the primary antagonists is named Senator Armstrong. He's a very, very beefy, large man.
Does he have strong arms?
He does have strong arms. And he also, literally says the phrase, "Make America Great Again" in that video game. Yeah.
Wait, in Nier?
No, Metal Gear Rising.
Sorry, right.
In the context of a Metal Gear, in the Metal Gear game, where this big antagonist man is just like, "We're going to make America great again," while he's trying to beat the shit out of you.
And this is before...
This is way before the rise of this current political climate.
Huh.
It's completely whack to reflect on, and look at how much of a supervillain Senator Armstrong was, and how he was saying the exact same thing that a literal billionaire fascist would later come to
I,
say.
I don't really want to suggest that real life might be Metal Gear fan fiction, but what if real life is Metal Gear fan fiction?
Let's explore that.
To be fair, it is all one really long cutscene.
and get this, in this fan fiction world that we've created, women are treated with respect sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. If you're an internet feminist, oof, I feel bad for you and for me also as an internet feminist. Still haven't gotten anywhere. And that's a crime. So that's that. That's that's Platinum's game library. And they've also come together with Yoko Taro, who has made games like the Drakengard series, the original Nier.
Oh, so is this not a new... I thought this was a new IP.
No, this is not. This is a continuation of the original Nier story, but you don't need to have played it in order to understand.
Okay, so when was
just-
the original one then?
Nier, the original, was released, I want to say 2009 on the PlayStation 3.
Okay, so a little while ago.
I'm just confirming. I wasn't too far off, actually. The 22nd of April, 2010.
Okay.
Wait. Oh, it wasn't... Okay.
It's a decade
Okay.
ago.
No, but it was also... I was thinking it may have launched on the same date as Automata did. And I was like, oh, that would have been a fun thing.
But it's not April yet.
Unfortunately not. It did not happen. But yeah, it's a game which takes place in the same kind of universe. Nier was widely loved for its story, but it didn't have a lot going on for gameplay.
Okay.
So in this case,
Was it a similar style of gameplay?
like not nearly as fast,
fight 'em
but
up
yes.
kind of thing?
And now the Bayonetta team, essentially has come in to make the combat really, really good, and also continue on some really, really interesting story stuff that's going on in Nier.
Right, so you said it's a continuation of the story, but you don't need to play the first one. Is it
Yeah,
the same
no,
characters?
No, it is not the same characters.
Okay.
Whole new set of characters. I think it's a few hundred years into the future from the original story as well.
Okay.
So it takes place in the same universe and is technically a sequel.
Okay, gotcha. And this has been on PC for you, or?
Yeah, I've been playing it on PC.
Okay, with a controller, I'm guessing, because games like this are typically controller based. They're best control schemes, eh?
I tend to play this style of games with a controller. It's nice to be able to play this with my controller of choice now, because the biggest problem I had with Bayonetta was that I couldn't play it for extended periods of time because the Wii U gamepad isn't great as a controller.
Oh, was it only on Wii U or something?
Bayonetta 2 was only the Wii U. Bayonetta 1 you could get on 360 and PS3 as well.
Okay.
But I got Bayonetta 2 as a special edition, which came with Bayonetta 1.
So it was on the Wii U as well then?
Yeah, it was then on the Wii U as well.
Gotcha.
The Wii U has kind of miserable buttons and analog sticks to use. They're quite nice and responsive, but they're not as soft or as grippy as an Xbox or PS3 controller.
Right.
So it's just uncomfortable to use for a long period of time.
I never had a Wii U, but I got a Wii just to play Monster Hunter Tri. It's the only game I've ever played on it. On this shitty CRT TV that I bought for my brother's girlfriend that was small but bulky, that I had sitting on my knees to play on my Wii while I was living with my parents. It was hilarious. It'd be awful to do now. But I had the like the controller for the Wii, which like no one seems to have. But I remember the analog sticks. They like if you went forward, it was really easy to go directly forward and not like forward to the side or anything, which is something I noticed was different to the other controllers that I'd use, which is kind of interesting.
Was this like the classic controller, like the
Yeah,
one
that's
that's
what it
like
was
the
called. Yeah.
NES?
Oh,
Yeah,
was it like that?
well,
I don't know.
sort of ish. More like an SNES controller, I think. I
Okay,
have I have one of those too.
I've only played emulated Super Nintendo games, so I've never actually held one of those controllers or anything.
I used to own a Super Nintendo.
Wow.
Yeah, like at one point, I think my aunt was just giving away the Super Nintendo, and we were just like, "Hey, I would like that." Yes,
Yeah.
and it had like Super Mario All Stars. So that was like all the Super Mario Brothers games and the Lost Levels.
Lost
Um,
levels?
the Lost Levels was the original Super Mario Bros. 2. There's like a whole detailed like history
Okay,
there.
I'll take your word for it then.
Yeah, it's like a thing. Here's
Okay.
what you need to know in a nutshell. The original, like the Super Mario Bros. 2 that we saw in the West, is actually a reskin of another game which was called Doki Doki Panic in Japan. The Lost Level, because and it was never like that, wasn't released until the Lost Levels, the Japanese exclusive Super Mario Bros. 2, because Nintendo at the time feared that it would be too hard for Western players. So instead they reskinned Doki Doki Panic.
So it was essentially a different set of levels depending on where you got it.
No,
Right? No?
because Japan also had Doki Doki Panic in addition to Super Mario Bros.
Yeah,
2
yeah, but
in
if
its
you bought
original
Super Mario
form.
Bros. 2 there, then it will be a different set of levels if you bought Super Mario Bros.
Yeah,
2
it would
in
be
the
an entirely different game. In fact, like all the sprites and stuff look very, very different in the Western um, Super Mario Bros. 2.
Okay.
It's really, really
Weird.
fascinating. And then the Lost Levels was the eventual Western release of what was the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2.
Right.
And it was, as promised, a very hard thing. And like we had this in this Super Mario All Stars collection, which was really cool. We also had like Donkey Kong Country games, and those are really great. I,
I don't think we owned any console before the PS3 era. We had Game Boys, but not an actual physical gaming console until PS3.
my first console was a Sega Genesis.
When was that? I thought you were supposed to be young. How do you have all these super old consoles? This isn't fair.
Uh, I honestly don't know. I don't know where the Genesis came from, and the most fucked up part about the story is I have no idea where it went. One day, no, okay, I have to tell the story now. Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, we had a Sega Genesis. The only thing that I remember having on the Sega Genesis at the time was Sonic the Hedgehog. I think we had a few Sonic the Hedgehog games, but there wasn't like a lot on the Sega Genesis.
Hmm.
And we would play it like every day, and we got really into like Sonic the Hedgehog, and I was never
Yeah.
very good at Sonic the Hedgehog because I was fucking like what, 4 or 5, something like that. One day, the Sega Genesis fucking disappears. I can't find it anywhere, and my parents don't know anything about it either. I assume this was a lie, and they
Yeah.
just made it disappear. But
Yeah.
like the Sega
But-
Genesis disappeared one day, dog. It was just gone. And I was really bummed about that because I got really into Sonic and then it was just gone.
But your parents just told you that it disappeared. Like,
Yeah, they told me they didn't know where it was.
that's the most unimaginative way to explain away something you've taken away from your kid. Sorry.
No, I totally agree with you. I think it was fucked up, but like the Sega Genesis saga is bizarre and I'm so mad that like left my life because if I still had that Sega Genesis right now, I could sell it for $200.
I wonder if like we're gonna get people writing being like, "Hey, they're around the same time, my Sega Genesis also disappeared, and there was this big spate of they just disappeared."
That'd be really
something.
fucked up.
I doubt that's going to happen. It does
Oh
seem
yeah,
unlikely.
I totally
But
doubt that that's gonna happen. But like, what if?
yeah.
Man, that's gonna haunt me. So yeah, the Sega Genesis used to be a thing I had. Like I had all these old consoles, and I've talked to you before about like how I had a GameCube,
I
and
still don't believe you.
you don't believe me that the GameCube was like a real console that exists.
No.
We got off track though. Like we were talking about the classic controller originally, and like the reason that I use a classic controller now in this day and age is to play Super Smash Brothers on my Wii U. And that's my life.
I've probably still got my Wii somewhere, actually, come to think of it. Probably still has Monster Hunter Try in the drive since... Like, I got whatever that fitness game is or whatever that came just with the Wii. Like, I couldn't get the Wii without getting that game. It never came out of the box.
Wii Fit is good. You're missing out. I also want to quickly mention something that I thought that you might very well be interested in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's another hunting game that's just come out.
What's
Another
that?
another like Japanese hunting game, like a Monster Hunter style game.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Tukiden.
How do you spell that?
I'm probably butchering it. Toukiden.
Okay.
But in Tukiden 2, or possibly
The Age
Tokiden
of
2.
Demons. Oh, yeah,
just
I've
came
actually
out.
seen... I actually watched the trailer for this when I put it on Steam a while ago. Was it before it came out? Or... No, this is an old one I've found just by Googling it.
Okay.
This is a 2013 one. There's a sequel now.
This came out in 2013?
But no, they had like one of them came out in 2013.
Okay.
One of them just came out.
Yeah, this is probably the one that just came out, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Reviews are very positive on Steam right now.
Okay. Yeah, so what I think I would have seen would have been the last one on Steam or something that I looked at. Okay, I'll have a look at that. And that's PS3 only, PS4 only, is it?
No, it's on Steam.
Oh, it is. Okay, cool.
There was one more. Dauntless. That's right.
Dauntless?
Dauntless is another Monster Hunter style game that I think you might be very interested in.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've mentioned it to you before. I'm gonna link you a Polygon article here. These links will be available in the show notes too, as well. But like, it's another Monster Hunter style game with a really like, it's got like a cartoony aesthetic. It's got a really, really cool giant owl.
Yeah, it looks cool. It's like an owlbear.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure I'm not sure from what I saw that how much content it has compared with a game like Monster, but it does look cool. Worth checking out for sure. But it'll be a while before I'm done with Horizon.
Yeah. I figure even if it has less than like your traditional Monster Hunter.
I mean, Monster Hunter is a lot partly because they can pull on monsters they made for previous games. Like,
yeah.
When they make a new one, it's not all new monsters, so that's part of how they manage to get a lot of content anyway.
Hopefully it turns out to be good. Like, there's too many games coming out this year, man. Persona 5
just recently I was complaining
is 2
about
weeks
not
away.
thinking there was anything good coming. Oh, you'll be excited about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Like, it's happening.
That's going to be
after years too. It was originally announced for the PS3.
That's for
It's still
gonna be
coming
PS4
out
then,
on
is
it too.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Only PS3?
No, they're still doing PS3, like a PS3 version, but it's on PS4 mostly.
Oh, okay, right, gotcha. Are you going to get it on release?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That actually does lead me into something, though.
What's that?
FOMO, fear of missing out. Do you get that at all?
I get kind of the opposite, I guess, in my whole spoiler avoidance thing. I don't know if the opposite's the right way to describe it.
No, I don't
It's
think it is, but
it's
I think
it's
you've got a
more
starting point.
I don't want to hear about things that I'm going to do, like Mass Effect Andromeda. As a space nerd, it was really sad when I decided, no, I'm sorry, I have to mute the word Andromeda on Twitter. But I have. Um, but like, I won't want to hear anything at all about it. And it's not because I'm worried, like, oh, other people experiencing this and I'm not. It's more, when I get to it, I want to have it be all first experience of. I don't want it to be. I don't want to say the word tainted, but I can't think of a better word. But by other people's expectations and experiences, I'd
Mm.
rather get mine first. So I've been like, every time a headline pops up in my feed reader, I'm like, nope, hide that. And there have been a couple where it's like, I wish I hadn't read that headline, but hey, it's only a few words and it's too late now, thanks. So I don't know if I'd describe what I get as fear of missing out, but I do try to avoid people talking about things that I haven't been able to do yet in terms of video games and just stories in general, but video games is where that comes up most often for me, I think.
See, like I when it comes to like buying games on release and stuff like that, I've found myself doing it more often now that I actually have an income which allows me to do it.
It's handy, yeah.
Yeah, it's really handy to have an income if you want to
Mm.
play video games.
And
And when you don't, there's still like a lot of really, really great options. But having an income made it like really like accessible for me to get new games on release.
mm,
And since that has happened, like I've wanted to all of the time be part of the conversation that is happening around a game.
okay,
So
no,
like
I don't get that at all. But go on.
yeah, like that's like my whole thing. I want to be part of the conversation in some way, shape, or form, like contribute to it and like have an opinion which, matters to people.
It's interesting
And
because I find sometimes I'd almost rather be thinking about an old game that, like, not that I don't want to say no one cares about it because people will still love it, but like people aren't actively talking about it in their way, so I don't have to worry about that stuff. It's an interesting difference.
yeah, like it used to be where I was at. I used to be like playing older games and just being like, "Hey, why the hell isn't anybody talking about XYZ anymore?" Like, and then trying to start that conversation and inevitably failing because I have too small a following for it, And that's lived on in perpetuity. Even as I talk about new games, I can't really get a discussion going, but I also can't tear myself away from wanting to be a part of it.
I wonder, do you think this ties in with playing online multiplayer? Because I mean, that is something that is very timely with when a game is released and something, and it's
I
also something
think,
that I don't tend to participate in.
yeah, maybe something about that is like maybe there is something to that because games with online multiplayer, live and die by their communities. And it used to be that I could never play those because by the time I would actually be able to get to a game where there was any sort of significant online mode, it was always dead on arrival for me.
Hmm.
And a lot of that was because I lived in an area of Canada in which I had profoundly and profanely shitty internet.
I think
So,
the only game I've really participated in online multiplayer was Mass Effect 3, but like that was all silent anyway, and it kind of ties into the single player a little bit, and that some of the points you get for that
oh,
are relevant
that's
to the
right.
main
The
story.
war assets shit
Yeah,
like happened.
yeah. Um, but that's the only game I think I've really done online multiplayer. Anything else, if there's a community, I tend to just stay away from it. If I want to play something with other people, it'll be with my friends who are either in the room or on Skype or something.
Right.
Thing. But I mean, you know, and I've said many times on the show that I'm not a person for competitive multiplayer.
No, you're certainly not.
But yeah, I just wonder if maybe that's a relevant thing with this whole wanting to talk about a game as it's happening. It's like it's the same kind of thing. If you're playing it like that, you kind of have to do it at that point. And then there's games like The Division and stuff, right, where the experience you'll get in them will depend a lot on when you play them because
Yeah.
how many other people are playing.
Destiny and shit too.
Mm.
Like Destiny's faded away a bunch, and it's actually Bungie's announced, hey, we're sunsetting Destiny.
Well, it's more that they're doing Destiny 2, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but they're also sunsetting Destiny with this Age of Triumph thing that's going on, where they're bringing back like all the old raids and stuff like that.
Well, that seems like a reasonable thing to do for me if you're just about to do the sequel as the next thing. And like, okay, we don't have any new content. Let's make the most of what we've got.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. But it's like, to me, it's really interesting, like, to see them like doing a send off as well for Destiny, like assuming people will, once Destiny 2 comes out, they won't go back to the original Destiny. So it's like, we're going to celebrate all the achievements of your Guardians now.
Isn't it?
It's going to be a one-time thing. If you don't do this, you're not going to be able to experience this again in a few years.
Destiny 2 is having character import, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, for just like the customization that takes like 5 minutes for you to do at the beginning of the thing, because you can choose a gender, a race, a facial preset, and some markings.
Right.
And that's your character.
Okay.
That's all that's being saved. So none of your gear or anything is carrying over.
Yeah, I mean, well, if everyone's going to start from level 1 again, it makes sense.
Yep. It's a bit of a bummer.
Is it?
But yeah, I think it's a bit of a bummer. Like I said, those characters don't take a lot to customize. You could probably make one just like it really easily, sans import in Destiny 2.
You don't have to this way because you can import it.
I guess.
I remember trying to import my Shepherd into Mass Effect 3 and it didn't go well. Like, their hair wasn't there anymore, and I think their eyebrows also broke, and I had to essentially go back through all my hundreds of screenshots and try to recreate them. But it turns out actually it's really hard to have good screenshots of their face to use as a reference.
Yeah.
And like they got rid of the it makes sense to me if you're making a sequel to a game where you play as the same character as in the previous game and there's customization that you don't remove options. And they did in Mass Effect 3 they removed some hairstyles and hair colors. If you used them in the earlier games, you had to change it.
Couldn't you just do RGB anyway, though?
Not that I recall, but you definitely couldn't just, define your own hairstyle. So that was interesting, how I was forced to change my Shepherd's hair at the start of Mass Effect 3 after like 50 hours of them. And I mean, yes, people's hair can change, so it's not like I had to change the number of eyes they had or something. But still,
it's not like extensive lore had to be rewritten.
It seemed like a strange choice to remove options when you're supposed to be importing a character customized with the previous options.
Yeah, my import didn't go very well either when I was playing Mass Effect 3. My character's hair in the original version of the import, which I was like, surely this will be fine, was purple, where they had been a redhead in previous games.
Right.
I was like, hang on, now that's not right, is it? I ended up making them look really good by the end of me messing with my import. You good? What was that about?
I just leant close to the mic as I was putting something down on my desk. Sorry, did it get super loud or something?
Yeah, it did. It got really loud.
Sorry. I think my jacket might have brushed against it or something.
That's possible. Yeah, I don't know. I
You lost the second half of that thought?
Yeah, I did.
Character imports? No?
Yeah, no, it's like half there.
Okay.
I think we just need to move on.
Sure. But yeah, so Mass Effect Andromeda is out and I'm avoiding it. I've the opposite of fear of missing out. I would like to miss out, please. And I'll come to it in my own sweet time. Once I'm done with Horizon.
So everybody, DM Mark all your Mass Effect news. No, don't do that. Don't do
No,
that. Don't
don't
do
do
that.
that.
Don't tweet at Mark.
Oh, I did the worst thing yesterday. You know about this. So, I've talked multiple times on the show about how much I try hard to avoid spoilers. On Monday, I finished the first book in the trilogy I've been reading, and I've been looking forward to reading the next book. So, I took
Oh
the book
shit.
into work to read yesterday, and I read the first page, and then I was like, huh, are they like recapping stuff that happened between books? Because this hasn't happened. And then I looked at the cover, and it was book three. So now I know everything that happens in book two because it was a summary of what happens in book two.
Oops.
Yay! So
Whoops.
yeah, that was annoying.
That was maybe not good.
I started reading book two today, and like I'm enjoying it, but of course, but still in the back of my mind, it's like I know what happens, and I don't want to know what happens. Ah,
Off topic.
mm.
Do you know any good methods for removing adhesive from game cases?
I don't even remember the last time I had a game case.
That's right. You don't buy like physical copies at all, do you?
Not if I can help it.
You have a physical copy of Horizon, though. I know that.
Yeah, but I rarely buy games that aren't PC games, and Horizon isn't a PC game.
Mm-hmm.
I heard actually that physical copies of Mass Effect Andromeda for PC don't have a disc in them. They're just an empty case with a code for you to download it, which seems like a very bizarre thing to me.
I think it's just so that like distributors like EB Games and stuff like that can get a cut.
Yeah, but like, why make the plastic case with space for a disc and then not put a disc in it? It seems like a waste, especially if they're like being shipped over here or something.
Uh, I mean, I can't really think of a reason.
Exactly.
I know
Yeah.
that like I would almost prefer that to like the Fallout 4 approach where the physical PC copy of that had one disc in it which installed the game part way and then you had to download the rest.
That's odd.
Yeah, I don't know. So like I think I would almost prefer that approach, like the approach of just send a really thin case and no disc.
I don't think it even is a really thin case. I think it's just a regular case without a disc.
What?
Yeah.
That seems not right.
Yeah. From the couple of pictures I've seen on Twitter, that seems to be what it is.
Ah, that's dumb.
Yeah, it does seem like that. But yeah, anyway.
I remember the physical copy of Metal Gear Solid 5 was on PC was supposed to be like just an installer for Steam and
Oh.
then a code and that
Yeah.
was like that was what was on the disc. It
Mhm.
wasn't actually just the game. It's just an installer for Steam on a disc.
Yeah, that seems bizarre to me. But I mean, like, I don't remember when the last time I bought a physical PC game in a store would have been. Like, we're talking, it probably would have. I don't even know. Would it have been like one of the Splinter Cell games, maybe?
Hmm.
When did Chaos Theory come out? Might have been that. That was 2005. There you go. Maybe 12 years ago was the last time I bought a physical
Jeez.
PC game. I don't know. That sounds like it might be about right, honestly. I don't know. I don't get the point. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
But you buy physical games, don't you?
Yeah, but most of the time they actually have like multiple discs, or
Yeah,
the,
but,
the
like-
full thing is just available to me on the
But
disc.
then you can lose the disc. And it takes up like physical space where you live.
I mean, the latter part I don't mind. The first part
Okay.
I deal with by just being really fucking organized with my games and putting them all on shelves.
I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah. Give me the choice and I'll get it digitally.
100% of the time, yeah.
For PC, yeah. I guess it definitely gets a little more complicated with consoles where you might not be able to just swap out the space or something. Whereas a PC, I can easily back up to a portable hard drive. And I know PS4 is getting that, right?
Yeah,
But if it's
PS4
like-
has that now, actually.
Right, awesome. But like if it's a DS or something, then yeah, physical game cartridge makes sense. But no, PC, yeah. Digital.
I will always appreciate physical PC games, mostly for the fact that like I like just occasionally like taking the box out and looking at how cool the album art is and stuff like that. Like I love looking at the art. I love looking at the booklets. I love being able to hold it in my hand.
When was the last game you got that had a good manual?
The last game that I got that had a good manual is LA Noir, and it's brand new.
Yeah. What was its manual?
Its manual
Because
is
video game manuals used to sometimes be really cool. I mean, they were always just the regular duds, but now there's always just regular duds. Like that's it.
yeah. This one's got. Let's see. There's a notepad in the back. There's all the credits are in here as well, so you can see everybody who's worked on it without having to like wait for the credits to scroll by. You can like see who's worked on it and like pay your respects, I guess. There's full details, art, concept art, a little bit of it. There's actually a bunch of concept art in here. My goodness. It's all in keeping with the aesthetic of the game. It's like
Yeah.
pictures, like things attached together with paper clips, uh, scraps of crumpled paper, handwritten. Like this is like it's a pretty cool guide, or sorry, a
I
pretty
can't
cool manual.
I can't remember if I've mentioned it on the show before, but I think the best manual for a video game I ever got was MechWarrior 4,
Oh
where
man.
its manual was amazing. It wasn't a manual for the game. It was literally a MechWarrior's manual where it goes through like all the different mechs and tells you their
Oh,
specs.
that's cool as
And then
hell.
after it went through all of the ones for your faction, it had a bunch of blank ones, but some of the blank ones had been like written in with pen for the ones that the character who owned the manual had encountered in the field and like written down all the stuff they'd found about it and the shape of it and stuff. It was really, really, really good and impressive. Best manual by like a big margin that I've seen for a video
Let me
game.
just look at my shelf over here.
I might still have it somewhere at my parents' place in a cupboard somewhere.
Just like sitting there?
Probably still in the box. Probably back in the box. Either that or on a bookshelf somewhere. Because
Oh,
it's
you know what
quite
else
thick.
had? Okay, you know what else had like a good physical copy too? Like The Witcher
Mhm.
3.
Yeah.
The Witcher 3 had a really good physical copy. It came with like stickers. It came with the soundtrack on its own separate disc. The Witcher 2 came with like a full, like proper guide to everything that happens in the story. It came with like both games came with bonus content on like DVD, like behind the scenes shit and stuff. Like there's still good physical copies. They're just incredibly rare now, beyond like collector's editions. Which I also really like collector's editions, to be fair.
I don't know if I've ever bought a collector's edition.
I think
Like,
one of my favorites has been Fire Emblem Fates.
sorry, not you. I was just trying to find the manual, and I think I
Mhm.
found a dodgy link. Fire Emblem Fates, yeah.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Fates, because not only did it come with like a very rare version of the cartridge,
Hmm.
in that it has all of the paths available on a single cartridge.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Um,
it's quite branching, isn't it?
yeah, it's got three different fates in it. Birthright, Conquest, and Revelations. And all of them are on one cartridge in one place only, and that was like the special edition
Hmm.
of Fire Emblem Fates. And it came with like a steel book and a really nice poster, it's got a map of all the world on one side, and it's got
Oh, maps, yes. I remember Oblivion came with a map. That was
The
cool.
Witcher 3 and 2 both came with maps of those worlds as well.
Yeah.
Um, but this has a map and like also a poster with all of the characters in this really nice big piece of key art. It's a really quite nice special edition.
Nice.
Physical games are good. I've s-
Eh,
I will still really enjoy them forever. Um, yeah.
I've just sent you a link to what looks like someone may have scanned
No way.
the manual.
This is actually cool as hell.
I know, right? I don't know if that. I think this is not just scanned. Some of the text seems to have actually been written in because it's not formatted the way I think it was in the book. But yes, it's really cool.
Dang.
Yeah, I wish we had more like that. Then I might buy physical games. Maybe, probably still not. But it'd be really cool if we still had things like that. In world stuff like that is just really cool. I reckon.
Yeah. Something like this for like a game like Titanfall 2 would have been
Yeah,
incredible.
exactly, right? You get your pilot's guide, tells you all about the specs of it. Yeah. In-world stuff that keeps the fourth wall intact while telling you how to play
It'd
the
be
game
really
I really
interesting in
like.
the context of Titanfall 2 as well, because in the beginning of Titanfall 2, you start out as like someone who's aspiring to be a pilot,
There you go, yeah.
and then due to extraordinary circumstance, you become a pilot.
Hmm.
And I think it would have been like now I'm thinking about this idea for like a manual for Titanfall 2 written as like this
The
is
Titan
what
manual.
pilots do. Look how awesome pilots are, and like this like represent this. I like. Let's be honest. It would be this propaganda style like puffing up of what pilots do and how cool they are,
Is that the
and
sort of feel you get from
just
the in-game stuff?
a little bit like pilots are pretty well revered as being like highly skilled, highly trained, etc., etc., like kind of
Hmm.
best of the best, and they also have the like big ass mechs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a central plot point as well. Having been like handed control over a Titan is a pretty big deal. Um, your COs will often cast your abilities into doubt and stuff like that because you were just given the role of pilot rather than earning it. It's
Hmm.
this really interesting, like, in world lore and mythos surrounding exactly what a pilot does. And I think it'd be really interesting to see, like, see a document that was like written for kind of the lower levels of these military forces and just like look at pilots, this is what you can aspire to.
Right. Rather than something that's actually given to pilots as this is how you use your Titan.
Yeah, exactly. Have it as something presenting like this is what pilots can do. It's pretty awesome. Look at how they can wall run and stuff because they have jump jets on them.
You can't wall run, can you?
You
Come
can't
on.
wall run. But it could also like you could still also present that in the context of like a proper manual. Like
Yeah.
look at how the pilot uses L1 to jump and then wall run.
Well, I think the MechWarrior one, from what I recall of it, and I haven't had a detailed look at that link I sent you just to scroll. I think it was more of a reference than like a controls guide.
Hmm.
Because like there are a lot of different mechs in that game, and it helps to know what they can all do and stuff like that. And it's just mainly what that was about. Because yeah, it's hard to give control advice while keeping the fourth wall intact
Hmm.
because there's no actual L1 in game
Press
unless
X
like
to time
they're sitting
travel.
there with a controller, perhaps, I guess. Maybe that's how they control it. They've just got a
There is
PlayStation
that
4
VR
controller.
simulation that you start out in.
I haven't played the game,
Okay,
so
there's a you start out in a VR simulation essentially.
hmm.
Um, and you run the pilot's gauntlet, which I've talked about before.
Yeah,
That's all. It's all done in a simulated environment.
right.
I'm like weird. I'm also like now weirdly nostalgic for old manuals.
I can't think of many really good ones. Like I do think they used to be better because now you'll often get like, "Hey, here's a seizure warning.
I
Here's the
remember.
control
I
map. That's
remember
it."
Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door having a really good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paper Mario's always had this like astounding style and identity, and I love those games so much, and I know you can't get into them.
No.
I still think it would somehow be worth it for you to try, because I think you would find something that you would love in there. I think there's enough variation on like a traditional turn-based RPG. There's enough variation in Paper Mario, just even within just like the combat systems, that you would definitely find some interest in it.
I don't know. I've tried one of the Mario RPGs before, and I just could not get into it because everything was ridiculous.
I mean, everything in a video game is just inherently ridiculous. It just
Not this ridiculous.
well,
Mario is its own special type of ridiculousness.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't have any tonal seriousness, I guess would be how I would put that. It doesn't have a serious tone to it, but like it's still goofy as any other video game. Just it also doesn't take itself too seriously.
I wouldn't say it's as goofy as any other video game. I'd say it's much goofier than most other video games. That's the thing. Like when you, the one I had, if it was a while ago, but it's like, big fist and a white glove kind of thing, like cartoonish. I don't know, like I can totally get why you'd enjoy it. And I'm not trying to argue that it's a bad game or anything. It's just that type of style of thing is something that I find it really hard to get into. Like it doesn't capture my attention very well and stuff as well, because I don't take it seriously, I think.
And somehow you can take Turians and Krogans
Yeah,
fighting
totally.
very seriously.
Yeah, because it's not a silly thing. It's science fiction. It's not
It's
made to be absurd.
okay, that's fair. It's not. Yeah, it's not deliberately made
Like,
to be
yes,
absurd.
they're not real, but
Like it seems a little bit goofy to me.
I've never
Still,
seen it that way.
really, Mass Effect is a little goofy, and I like it that way. Video games in general are a little goofy. I like them that way.
I
Um,
prefer mine without goof. I guess that's not a word, is it?
I
You
mean,
know
it's
what I mean,
fine. Don't
though.
worry about
You
it.
know what I mean. Wait, no, it is a word. Goof. Of course, it's a word. But
Like a
it's
goof is
weird
a
to call it
word.
that.
Are
It's
you
weird to.
using
It
in the right
feels weird to use it
context?
that way. Anyway, I'm sure what I mean is clear. That's just not the sort of feeling I enjoy in games that I play, I guess.
Hmm. Have you ever like? Is there any like just particular reason for that, or is it just
It's
has
just
it
that
just
about,
not clicked?
yeah, it just doesn't like I just can't. When that happens, it pulls me out of it. I can't take it seriously. And generally, it's the narrative content that has that dissonance with the silliness. And like, it's not that it's not like I can't play any game that has a joke in it or anything like that. But when I don't know, when it's a joke with the player that's kind of like winking at them, breaking the fourth wall, that pulls me out. If it's an in-world funny thing, then that's cool, that's great. Like stuff in Portal, it's a bit goofy, but it's not enough to pull me out of it. Does that make sense? Like
Hmm.
that sort of, um,
But like openly cartoonish, like comedies and stuff like that will just
yeah, like
totally
something
throw you out.
being funny because it's absurd, because it's a giant disembodied hand in a cartoon glove, like that handy boss or whatever it is in Smash Bros. Like that sort of thing. I just shake like involuntarily shake my head at. Whereas stuff like the orb that really wants to go to space in Portal 2, I actually find that's kind of funny. Although I wouldn't want that sort of humor saturating all the games I play as well.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe I'm just a very serious person. Who knows?
Grim and serious, Mark.
Did you just call me Mork?
I did not, but
Okay, just sound like that
we
to
can
me.
go with that if you want this to be your like grim and serious nickname. Hey, Mork, what's good? Ah, and what's good with everything? Just like what's good with this show? The answer is nothing. Thanks for listening. Sorry that we're we're bad at content, everybody. Um, Yeah, we're bad at content. That's not deniable, I don't think. One of these days, by the way, I'm gonna convince you that the GameCube is a real console.
I think you'll break my record in Just Cause 3 before you do that. And we all know that's never going to happen.
You
There's a
wound
lot of
me.
silence following that.
You
That was good.
wound me.
Because you haven't done it, have you?
Throwing knives in my general direction. They're hitting me just a little bit in the chest. You know. You wound me, Mark.
But it's true.
But it's true.
Gotcha.
It was like a very prolonged way to get me. But yeah, you got me. Sure. Thanks, I guess. This became like weirdly antagonistic.
Sorry.
Mark Hanna, what are you looking forward to playing this week?
Still gonna be more Horizon.
Still gonna be
I'm
Horizon.
I'm gonna get through more of the main story, I hope. Hopefully some this weekend. I mean,
Nice.
it's gonna be hard for me to play less of it than I have the last week because I only played it on one day, but that project that's been taking up a lot of evenings is about to come to fruition, so I should hopefully play more games this week. Well, more game, because I am anticipating it's going to be only Horizon.
Are you
It's
able
still
to talk
really
about
good
the
and not being able to finish
project?
it. I'll talk about it next week once it's done and dusted, I guess.
That's fair. For my reference, is it the same data and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm excited for that to come to fruition.
Yeah. No, so am I. What about you? What are you going to be
Oh,
playing
you
this
know
week?
what? You know
Yeah.
what? I didn't get to talk. Well, actually, I'm going to spin this. Because I'll talk about this very, very briefly. Um, can you ask me the question again?
What are you going to play this week?
I'm not going to be playing Night in the Woods. I have
Because you've decided it's awful. Actually, you don't like it after all.
you. You are just the knives. They're hitting me over and over, man. Local woman found dead with 100 knives in her chest.
Metaphorically.
No, literally. Mark, I'm bleeding out. No, I finished Night in the Woods. Actually, was what I did, and that game got me thinking. It went some places, and it got me thinking.
Yeah.
And I wrote a small piece about it, and now that I've finished it as well, it means I might get together with Sid, who appeared on our 32nd episode of PauseCast.
hmm
I might get together again with Sid from I'm Just Playing, and we might do that Night in the Woods spoiler cast as a bonus sometime in the coming weeks. If you're interested on my thoughts on like Night in the Woods and how like it made me kind of feel introspective and how I connected to May very specifically,
Yeah, where is that?
you can read that on Medium. I'm Cockatiel Cutie on Medium, and I will also put a link to that in our show notes. I'm going to see about changing the format of how I do show notes as well. I'm thinking that, I links and stuff should definitely be in just the normal show notes, and they'll be available via our Patreon for everybody to see. And then our paid one will include like every game we discussed and stuff like that. It'll go really in depth, but I do want to make sure that we get links and stuff in the normal show notes. So I'll put a link to those in the show notes, as well as a link to a couple of the things that we discussed tonight, which is mostly just going to be the Mech Warrior 4 manual, Dauntless, and Tukiden. Yeah.
So you're not going to play Night in the Woods.
I'm not gonna play Night in the Woods. It's finished. You can read my thoughts on it.
But what will you play?
I think I will play more Near Automata.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have a bunch more fun with that. And it's entirely possible that over the course of the next week, I might find some time to sit down with LA Noire again.
Yeah? You've played through that a couple of times, haven't you?
It's one of my favorite games.
I knew that. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I relentlessly love LA Noire. It's so good. Uh, it's really good. It's a game about police that doesn't suck and doesn't like go against everything I politically stand for. Like, it's one of those. It actually like actively head on talks about like police corruption and shit.
Hmm.
And talks about like people who are complicit. There's a moment in that where one of your cases just goes away. It is swept under the rug because it's related to like it's because someone higher up wants it gone.
Interesting. I've played, I think, about 4 hours of that game, but I've got nowhere near to finishing it. It was a few years ago as well.
I would recommend going back and visiting that game if you can.
Yeah, part of the difficulty is it's my brother's game. I don't live with him anymore.
It goes some places. Your PS3 still works, right?
Yeah, should do.
You want me to bring my? I'll bring LA Noire to you.
Well, I've got Horizon, and then I'm going to have Mass Effect Andromeda, so we'll see.
Maybe after that we can get you to play LA Noire and like sit down with it proper.
Maybe.
I might go back to it this week though. I'm thinking.
Nice.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Terrific. Well, hey, hey, thank you so much for listening. If you're still
thanks for
listening
joining
this
us.
so far, real quick in summary, we're on the internet everywhere, kind of as PauseCast Show. We're on Twitter, PauseCast Show, Facebook, facebook.com/group/PauseCast Show, SoundCloud, PauseCast Show, Patreon. You can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/PauseCast Show. If you'd like to help support the show, that would be great. Mark, you're on the internet. You do things that are cool.
Thank you.
You do cool things. Where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at Honest Universe, and I blog as well, though not about video games, at honestuniverse.com. What about you?
You can find me on the internet as Cockatiel Cutie, and that includes at the extremely good Tumblr URL bird.school. We have free video games if you email us. If you would like to email us, it would be very good of you, I would say. You can email us about the show, get some free video games, including XCOM 2.
Really good game.
Really good game. XCOM 2, Dragon's Dogma, there's like a whole bunch. Just email us, pausecastshow@gmail.com.
Music.
Ooh. Music. You're right. Thank you very much to Leon for our theme song, Honey Milk Island, off of their self-titled EP. You can find Leon's music and download Honey Milk Island for free at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. And that's it. That's us for this week. Thank you for sticking it out and joining us. And we will see you next week.
Bye.